love talking to all sorts of different characters and the Robbie Road Steamers of the world and people that just make life healthy. I really enjoy that very much. And the guy joining us on the show right now, he is known on social media as Gunny Speaks Out. He is the muscle man on the motorcycle that you see going around town. Even though we can't swear because we're on the radio here, but he has these F Donald Trump flags and F Donald Trump shirts, and it really is awesome. And I love his videos. And Gunny joins us right now on the program. Yeah. Gunny, what's going on, man? Up. How you doing?
Hey, how are you guys doing?
You look like a guy that I just do not want to mess with. Can I just start by saying that? Oh my God. I want to give people a little bit of background on you first. Obviously, you served. Can you give people, how long did you serve and how long have you been retired?
Okay, so I went in 1990, went to the Gulf War and then did a tour in Somalia. And then 03, 04, I did 2 tours in Iraq. So I did 14 years total. And I got out as a gunnery sergeant.
And you are obviously very anti-Donald Trump, as we all are here.
Correct.
What made you decide to be so outspoken? Before I get to your videos, like what made you decide to, you have your own opinions, that's one thing, but to put it out there in the open?
So I was using my TikTok and I had like 2,000 followers at the time. And I was like following the work up to the election. And somebody had posted in a political video, they said, make sure you keep your Harris wall signs out in your front yard. So when the CW starts, we know where to come. And I was like, sweet. So I did a clapback post of that. And I put on my vest with my medals and my biker vest and all that stuff on there. And I said, here you go, big dog. And I put my Harris wall sign out to the edge of the yard. And I said, I'm ready. And it got 2.4 million views. And my wife said, you know what? I think you can probably be doing something better with your TikTok. So I turned it into a political debate live, activist live.
I love it. I absolutely love it. And I've been in some of your live TikToks and they're great. Sure. And that's how we met. So now let's fast forward to some of your videos, which I very much enjoy watching. Usually I watch your stuff on Facebook. I know you're on YouTube too. And I see you in these videos and like, you'll be hanging out in front of a Walmart. You'll be on your motorcycle with your F Donald Trump sign. Yep. And it's amazing, Gunny, that, so many people on the right will call people like us the snowflakes. How many people do you run into on a regular basis when you have that F Donald Trump sign that just come up to you and start throwing vulgarities at you? Because I see a lot of your videos where they do that.
Every day. There's at least one every day. And sometimes they're just like shaking their head. But they call me the F word. They give me the finger. And then of course, as you can see with some of the videos, they help me get the content for my TikTok and all my social media. So I'm like, hey, this works out great.
They're actually making you money. It's interesting because, I had to go to these Trump rallies when he ran for president again. And, F Joe Biden and the ho, all these signs and just a lot of hatred. They have no problem doing that for their 34 count felon rapist.
Right.
But yet somebody like you who served your country and you're a hero, you're using your First Amendment right. And they get so agitated and angry. Have you had anybody that like has tried to rip your flag? Have you had anybody that's actually tried to steal any of your stuff?
Yeah. So I was at the VA about a month ago. And I wear all my anti-Trump stuff at the VA and then fly my flag there too as well. So yeah, a month ago, another veteran cut my flag off my motorcycle while I was in the appointment. And then the officers that work there, they were walking out. And I was like, oh shit, I finally did it. Because I thought with the new rule with the VA where they could treat, Democrats and all that kind of stuff differently at the VA, I thought that I was about to be subject to. Turns out, and these officers were all retired Marines as well. They go, hey, Gunny, somebody cut your flag off your motorcycle. We got it on camera. And I want to know what you want to do if you want to press charges. And I said, absolutely. So that kid is facing 3 federal felonies.
Wow. It's unbelievable. By the way, good work, good police officer work there. I'm glad they gave you the opportunity to do that. And I'm glad you decided to press charges on this complete imbecile. Yep. It's like, do these people in this country, they preach First Amendment rights, but yet if they don't like the message, Gunny, this is the way I feel like a lot of these MAGA Republicans are. If they preach freedom of speech down our throat 24/7 and censorship, but if they don't like what you're saying, then all of that is out the window, right?
100% it is. 100%. And it's funny because you know, when I first started riding around and whatnot, you know, it wasn't that bad. And I guess ever since Trump keeps, the longer that he's been in office and ramping up his rhetoric, the more interactions, negative interactions that I get. But interestingly enough, Indiana being a red state, I'd say 90% of my interactions are all positive. People
That's good. Wow.
give me the thumbs up. I interview people. People are like, "Oh my God, I see you riding down. I didn't know you were local. Will you take a picture with me?" I mean, I gained 200,000 followers on Instagram in 2 weeks
Wow.
from the video that you're probably going to play with the woman in Walmart off of
Yeah.
that video. Off of that video.
Yeah, that's incredible, and that's awesome. I think, forgive me for stereotyping here, but I guess I will in this moment. If somebody describes to me somebody on a motorcycle with very large muscles that happens to be white with your, I'm not going to say accent, but where you're from, where you live, the first thing that comes to my mind is this must be a Trump supporter. But yet you are the opposite of that, which is awesome. But like, I don't like to stereotype people, but when I see somebody that looks like you with the tattoos and all that stuff, I automatically assume you were there on January 6th. Am I wrong? And obviously I'm wrong here in making that assumption, but that's what I think.
And I get that all the time. And I was doing a video of the bike with the flag, with the sunset in the background, and a lady was like peeking at me like this. And I looked over at her and I was like, "Oh, I thought she was going to be a Trump supporter because of the area that I was in." And she goes, "Oh my gosh, I am so thankful." She goes, "I thought it was the other way." She goes, and I have it on, and my camera was running while this was happening. And she came over and she's like, "I have to give you a hug."
That's so great.
Because he looked at me and she thought I was MAGA with that flag.
I think it's so great. And I think it's so great what you do because number one, you're not breaking the law. You serve this country so that we all have the freedoms, just like you do, to have your First Amendment right to say what you want. You're not causing disturbances. You have the right to. Now, obviously, if you showed up at a school and did that, which you would never do, that would be different with young children, but you're not doing that. And I think it's great. I think it's great what you're doing. So with that being said, I want to ask you this, as someone like yourself who served, what do you make of the fact now that Donald Trump is calling out the National Guard to DC and he's calling it a state of emergency? As someone like yourself who served, if you could have been called to something like this, what would have gone through your mind and what do you make of this?
So if that were me today and I was on active duty and they were calling me, I would be like, what is actually happening here? Because I've been in places that were bad. And I know, was it Stephen Miller that claimed it was like Baghdad or whatever? I'm like, I've been to Baghdad a couple of times. I said, this is, and I'm like, I know DC is not like Baghdad. So to me, it's a huge waste of time and resources, especially for active duty or National Guard military members, because they're like, they already have to go away one day, 1 week in a month and 2 weeks during the summer, and then they're just wasting time being away from their family for no apparent reason. As you know, that from what the stats say, the crime rate in DC is down 35%. So Donald Trump is using that home rule as just an excuse to federalize the troops.
Yeah, I agree with you. Are you worried, Gunny, that we could be headed towards martial law?
100%, I am, and I did a TikTok on martial law, the Insurrection Act. We talked about posse comitatus. We talked about all of that kind of stuff. And I'm like, damn, all this shit's coming to start. Seems like it's coming to fruition now. And it's my personal belief that there's an ulterior motive here for Donald Trump. That if you think about January 6th and why he's trying to do all this, I won't get into any conspiracy theories, but I think there's a bigger reason behind him doing all this.
Yeah, you could be right on that. What concerns you most about the first 7 months of Donald Trump's administration? I know there's probably a lot of concerns that we both have, but what worries you the most, like you and your wife and your family?
So I have two daughters. I have a granddaughter, and I'm the protector of the family. And I guess we can talk about the economy and all that kind of stuff, but I focus more on the social issues. And Donald Trump, creating these boogeymen, demonizing, marginalizing these communities with LGBTQIA and women's rights. I think those are the most disturbing things. And then let's not forget the mass deportation is probably. I think they rank all three at the top. And we just had. I'm doing a protest on Friday here in Evansville. Somebody was kidnapped coming out of their hearing, their immigration hearing in Evansville. So we're doing a protest on Friday for that. So that is insanity.
I'm so glad you're doing that, because that's what I wanted to ask you about. You know, we have these alleged ICE agents all over the country, many of whom are not identifying themselves. How do we know that? Because we've seen videos of it. They're literally not identifying themselves as law enforcement or ICE agents. And as you just said, in some cases, they're really kidnapping people right outside of courthouses when these people are trying to do it the right way. Many of these people are nonviolent criminals. Many of them, most of them, are nonviolent criminals, some of whom have lived in this country for decades. Are these the people that we're supposed to be afraid of?
Yeah. So apparently, and I was listening to a live this morning, and it's my personal belief that Donald Trump has gotten MAGA. They're scared of everything now, and I'm like, you know, I ran drug interdiction on active duty in the military on the southern border. I've worked with all kinds of people in the military. I see all kinds of cultures just traveling around the United States and the world. I'm like, these are not the people that we need to be afraid of. The people that we need to be afraid of are sitting in the White House right now.
You're right about that. You're right about that. Do you think we will ever see the Epstein files in our lifetime?
I don't think that we're ever going to see those. And then, you know, and that's unfortunate because at least I can speak for, I think our party, like, we don't care who's on in the Epstein files.
Right.
Expose them all, run them up the flagpole. That's what I say.
Exactly. I couldn't agree with you more there. You know, it's interesting because you make very similar arguments that I make. I mean, we can get into the policy stuff, but what about the personal stuff? You voted for a rapist. I know you say that to a lot of these Trumpers out there that approach you. You voted for an adjudicated rapist. You voted for a 34 count felon. You voted for the guy who literally bragged about going into teenage locker rooms. What's the normal response you get from people when you say those things?
Well, when we watch the video, the first thing that they say, "What about Biden?" Or they point to Bill Clinton, which we know that stuff. A lot of that stuff was consensual. But I get the "What about Biden?" The "What about Biden?" And I always say that "What about Biden?" is the MAGA mating call. So then I try to get into an actual debate about E. Jean Carroll, and I think one of the biggest troubling things in the world is nobody believes women, and that needs to change.
I agree with you, and you always should believe the victim in any circumstance unless they give you a reason otherwise. And I couldn't agree with you more. I think there's a reason why your stuff is becoming so popular on social media. Number one, it's entertaining, and number two, I love what you're doing. You're standing up to these cowards. You're standing up to these imbeciles, these MAGA fools. And it's interesting how upset they get when you just show a flag that says F Donald Trump. It's amazing how agitated they get. Yeah. And I think you're exposing them for the real snowflakes that they are. Yeah. Gunny, I really appreciate you taking the time to come on, my friend. Sure. And we'll definitely love to have you on again soon. And I love what you do. Please keep doing it and keep going strong, my friend. And
I will.
We got to get you on one of those Pierce Morgan debates panels that I get on here. It'd be nice to have you as my teammate on one of those things.
Hey, just let me know. I'm down. I would love to do that anytime.
I'd love to have you on. Gunny, thank you for your service. You're a hero, and please keep up the great work, my friend. I love what you do.
Thank you. All right, thank you guys.
Thanks, Gunny. There you go, everybody. That is Gunny Speaks Out. Now, if you don't know who he is, and if you're living under a rock and you haven't seen his videos, I highly recommend you check them out. They're very funny. Gunny is extremely, what's the word I'm looking for? Brave to do what he does. Not a lot of people are doing what he does. And
well, he believes in it too.
Yeah, that's the best part of it. He believes in it.
He's got daughters, he has a wife, and he knows he's invested.
Yeah. I love what he does. Guy. Yeah, and he confronts these people and he ain't afraid to do it. And he doesn't look like the kind of guy that you would want to mess around with either. So, it would break my neck like that. But I'm so glad he's on our side. And I hope he continues to do what he does. And that's a guy I wouldn't mind voting for office one day. I'll tell you that. Maybe